colleagues.
Joining me now is Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. He's a Democrat of Illinois. He sits on the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, good to see you again, sir. Welcome back to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chuck.
I tell you, nothing struck me louder today than hearing Matt Gaetz, a Republican from the Panhandle of Florida, describe the conditions, frankly, in ways that I've heard many Democrats describe the conditions of many border facilities. And so now we have universal agreement that these conditions are totally unacceptable, but it still seems to me that it's finger pointing first. I guess my question is, what can we do right now?
Well, thank you for the question. I think right now we have to spend the money that was appropriated last week or a week before, the $4.6 billion, in the way that it was intended, namely to alleviate the situation of overcrowding and improve the facilities on the border. And secondly, and very important, the money that's given to HHS so that they can place these children in long-term suitable shelters and get them the heck out of these temporary detention facilities on the border. They have no business being there in the first place.
I mean, in fairness to these Border Patrol agents are not trained to do child welfare.
They aren't, and that's why we provided the money to HHS to get these children out of those places into long-term shelters.
What comes now? I mean, how could we fix this Yuma shelter now? For instance, you know, we have the money appropriated. This is the part where the disconnect, I think, is frustrating to watch.
Yes. For starters, I think that none of these people should be treated the way that they're treated. I didn't like the comment that was made by DHS that this behavior that was reported, whether it was sexual abuse or these unsafe and unsanitary conditions, which are already illegal under the Flores decision, somehow these conditions don't align, quote unquote, with their principles. How about saying that they're wrongful, unethical, and should be prosecuted right now to the extent that people are actually committing these wrongful acts in those facilities. That's got to stop today, and then the money has to be used in the future to improve those facilities long term.
Look, and I know where you are on this issue. But given the fact that we see what these migrants are willing to put up with to get here, do we now realize how bad the situation is in Central America, and pulling out of Central America was the bigger mistake?
Yes, sir. I'm an immigrant myself. I came here as a 3-month-old boy, and I look at these people and I say, there but for the grace of God go I. They are fleeing violence. They're fleeing economic deprivation in these northern lateral countries in Central America, namely Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And we are cutting off humanitarian assistance to these countries at the same time that we are trying to deal with these people on the border. And so we should be resuming assistance. We should be trying to help these countries right now at the source of the problem, not making conditions worse by cutting off humanitarian assistance.
What's the biggest question Macarena needs to answer to your committee next week?
Well, I think first thing, he somehow denied that the conditions were as bad as they are. And does he now change his answer in light of what we've learned? And then secondly, what is he going to do right now to improve those conditions? And how is he going to make sure that the money that was appropriated is spent wisely? What's the timeline for spending that money? What are the metrics for success? How are things going to improve in 10 days, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, and so forth?
Let me move to another oversight issue. Jeffrey Epstein. I know that Alex Acosta has been invited to testify before the Oversight Committee. Do you think you'll get him?
Well, perhaps he'll resign before that. I've called for his resignation along with a lot of my colleagues, and perhaps if he does, maybe then he won't show up. But if he's still in office at that time, he has to show up. He has to answer for his conduct. One thing that one of my colleagues pointed out today, Catherine Clark, who questioned him at an appropriations subcommittee hearing, was why did he cut the human sex trafficking program within the Department of Labor by 80%. Why did he do that?
Right.
Now we're starting to have data points on this person where
you're connecting the dots. You think it's fair to connect those two dots on him?
Well, I mean, it's just I think it's fair, and it's something that unfortunately is a pattern with this administration and Donald Trump. I find that his own comments with regard to Acosta's behavior are troubling, reprehensible. His general comments on women are reprehensible, and this is something that I hope others, including Republicans, take another look at to decide whether this is the direction we should be going in.
Very quickly, it's our understanding that the Speaker, in a closed-door meeting with the Democratic caucus, gave a little lecture about tweeting about fellow colleagues. What can you tell us about that?
What happens in caucus stays in caucus, I guess. All I can say is,
did she issue a warning to stop tweeting about a fellow Democrat in a negative way?
Well, I think that she would prefer to hear complaints or comments or, constructive criticism personally. I'm not going to judge other people's communication style. I just think that to effectively deal with a source of concern, it might be good to engage with that person or persons directly and see how to improve the situation.
Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, Democrat from Illinois, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming.